Hello, everyone. It is Friday, May 16th. It's a beautiful day here in Chicago. Hopefully, y'all are having a good morning. I am on a little bit earlier than normal. I've got a pretty busy day the rest of the day, but wanted to cover a few things. There's plenty in the news to cover. There always is. But also, WeatherXM targeted rollouts. I'm going to explain how that works. Also going to talk about a position I took this morning that I think could have a pretty massive upside. I really like the risk reward on it right now. I'm going to explain why and show you what that looks like. And then we're going to talk about these reports that have been coming out about, people turning lead into gold and gold is doomed. We'll see. Is there any validity to those claims? We'll find out. We'll dig in. Let's see. What quote did I have for today? I always like to start with a quote. Might switch that up sometimes and do like a positive news story because the news is always so damn negative. There's positive things happening out in the world. We need to highlight those more often. Talent without discipline is just wasted opportunity. For sure. A position I took this morning. Yes, sir. Planning on probably adding to that, though, actually, the more I was like going through and getting my notes ready, I'm like, So I'll tell you what that looks like. But yeah, again, the quote is talented without discipline is just wasted opportunity. It is so true. I had friends that I grew up with that super, super sharp people that just, I don't know, never really had the discipline. And I'll tell you what, me in my younger years, there were times where I definitely lacked discipline and I had complacency. And it's all about showing up every day, coming up with structure, taking the small steps. And that's what we need to do every day. And that's what I've been doing, with these live streams. These have been fun. I really like doing it. So unless I'm like on the road and traveling or something, I plan to get on here. Talent is cheap. Execution is everything. Heck yeah, man. I'll tell you what, like for me, it's like the same like as working out. I was talking to someone. I was like, it's kind of funny how we go into the gym. We break down our muscles every day to build them up. And they're like, yeah, there's no hack. You can't just get there overnight. And I think, just like working out, getting in the gym every day, or, maybe not getting in the gym, maybe you go for a walk or you run every morning, taking care of your health. It's the same thing, right? It's all about discipline. It's all about execution. And you have to have a game plan to execute. So that's one thing I've worked on for sure over the last, 5-10 years, I guess, is really having structure, being disciplined, having a game plan in place, and then execution. I like that. Execution is everything. All right, y'all. We're going to break right into the DePIN news to start the day. So $5 billion in stablecoins going to creditors from the FTX debacle. So the payments are still going out. I bring this up in the DePIN section because, this bull run has been mostly institutionally led. This is $5 billion going into the hands of people that likely had a lot of altcoins in the last bull run. Will all of that go back into the market? Maybe not. Although right now the market's down, so it's not a bad time for them to be pushing back into the market. One thing I'll add, though, unfortunately, some of these FTX holders got kind of screwed because their payout was not in other words, if they had Bitcoin when it was filed, I forget what the price was back then, maybe like around 30,000, might even been less. I'm not sure. They're not getting paid out. If they had one Bitcoin, they're not getting paid out $103,000. They're getting paid out what the value was back then. So I imagine some of these people feel pretty burned, unless they're holding Ethereum, and then it's like the same price anyway, because Ethereum hasn't done much. I kid. Recently, it's done all right. So we'll see. I think that's bullish because really, for us to have alts come back, I think it's not going to be institutional buyers. I think it is going to be retail, most likely, unless there's a Solana ETF launched, of course. I think that could change things. Masari came out. Check this out, guys. DePIN leads in the 24-hour mind share. That's big news. I think we are starting to see some recognition and about time. You know, like some of this stuff, some of these things I see pumping, it's just like ridiculous. It's nice to see some real utility shine through, and I think we're finally going to have our moment. I'm excited about it. What else we got here? Oh, DABA Network. Check that out. Check out the amount of data being transferred over the network. That's a big deal. They still haven't even had their TGE. I think it's going to be pretty successful. They spend a lot of time on their tokenomics, making sure that they're getting proper exchange listings, everything. Let's see here. So good stuff. Good stuff. Like what DABA is doing. And again, they manage the deployments for you. And that's what I want to talk about next with WeatherXM and some of the things that they're doing. So for any of y'all that don't know, WeatherXM, they've been around for quite a while, even since the last market cycle. But they deploy weather stations. And kind of digging into the use case behind this, there's a report here I would recommend reading. It's in their blog. But they talk about how 78% of the world's harvested crops are in developing countries. I found that very staggering. I was definitely unaware of that before I did my research for the deep dive I did on this project, which is on my channel, by the way. Oh, yeah. By the way, make sure to give me a like. If you're on X, share it. I want to get some more eyes on this. And if you don't follow me on YouTube, make sure to do that too. Appreciate you all. Got some more comments in here. Not your keys, not your crypto. That is the truth. I got to tell you, I don't leave stuff on exchanges. Okay. We're going to talk a little bit more about Coinbase and what happened there. I covered it yesterday. We'll touch a little bit more on that. ETF launches, what they used to be for pumps. Seems like they crashed the prices these days. Yes and no. I mean, like Bitcoin, think about how much new money is coming to Bitcoin over the last year. There is some truth, though. I will say to that. I agree that the downside is also there when people sell off. For me, I'm wondering with the ETFs, like if it's going to bring in more long-term holders on Bitcoin. I think it will. I think it will and stabilize the price. But you're absolutely right. It does work in both directions when you have that amount of volume. So getting back to WeatherXM here, so you have 78% of the world's harvested crops are in developing countries. And the problem is they don't have weather data. And one of the big issues when you look at the downstream impact of this, crop insurance is the big problem because there's not enough weather data for them to get crop insurance. And you have 90% of crop losses are due to weather events. So being able to get deployments, and they touch on it here a little bit, like looking at Africa, the green, let's see, most areas need, so the left map is what they need, the density they need. Middle map is what they have currently. So they're, in other words, they don't have nearly enough weather coverage. And this is what the WeatherXM is doing on the right. So far, they've deployed a good number of weather stations, but now they're doing this rollouts situation. So essentially, people like you and me can invest in the WeatherXM network. And instead of us having to buy the stations and set them up ourselves, they're doing kind of like what DABA is doing, where they have installers in Africa. We can invest in the stations, they get installed for us, and then we get token rewards. But in that way, they can install them where they're needed. And I think we're going to see a lot more projects go this route in the DePIN sector. So you click, I'll show you what that link looks like. If you go here, you can join as an investor. That's kind of what I just described. You can also join as a deployer where you are doing the install, and you can apply for both. So looking at the investor side, basically they cover the details here, but you get an NFT to show that you have ownership. You get paid out WeatherXM rewards for 2 years. You also get free access to their WeatherXM Pro. So if you're a weather geek, that could be kind of fun to look at. And you don't have to worry about the deployments. Now, the way you can invest, you can either do USDC or you can do 300 WXM tokens. So that absolutely provides some utility for the WXM token. I like that. And it looks like you get about 65 to 80% of the station's rewards. So that's pretty cool. So that is available. And this is what it looks like. You just kind of fill out your personal information. It takes probably about 5-10 minutes to fill this thing out and then submit. So pretty exciting stuff there. I do have some WeatherXM stations deployed myself. I personally use the Helium version. It connects to the Helium network for connectivity. I've talked to a lot of different people that have pretty large scale deployments, and they said the Helium one has been by far the best and the easiest. It's great. I mean, you just have you can put batteries in. You don't have to worry about any wiring or anything like that. And you basically sync it up. The setup's super easy. So that is huge. I agree. I love the aspect. Like, don't get me wrong. I love doing deployments, but it's a lot of work. And if you're doing like a deployment business and you're installing on people's rooftops, some of the things you don't think about is when people move, they're like, "Hey, I need you to come get this thing off my roof." That's not necessarily cheap. I mean, you can go out and do it yourself, obviously, but there's certain rooftops that I'm not super keen on getting on top of, especially if they're super high up or a super pitched roof. It's not fun. So just things to keep in mind. This takes that all out of the picture, out of the equation. You can just invest. It's deployed for you. Looking at the WeatherXM token, we looked at this the other day. It has had a slow climb up. Still only a $16 million market cap. Like, man, I think there's certainly some upside here, in my opinion, not financial advice. What's up, 619? How's it going, man? All right. I want to touch on a project that I took a position in this morning. I think I'm actually going to increase that position. I still think it's crazy. Wi-Fi, same price as the Helium one. Yeah, I agree. Although I don't know, the manufacturing process probably is not much different, I wouldn't think, from a cost perspective, but could be wrong there. All right, y'all. This is it's a DePIN AI agent. It's super low cap, and I'm gonna make a case for why I think there's a good risk reward right now. If y'all know the virtuals ecosystem, I covered this last fall, right before it exploded, and then I covered it subsequently a couple more times after that. But I do think that we're seeing a comeback here in the virtuals ecosystem as a whole. Okay, and this is what we saw last time. We saw the virtuals price start to pump, and then we saw a bunch of the AI agents really take off, and it happened pretty quickly, pretty violently. I mean, some people made a lot of money off some of these AI agents. Now it's worth noting, look at the drop off. When the market dropped out, it corrected. I wouldn't even say that corrected, it collapsed. But it does appear to be one of the first sectors to make a comeback right now. I think, it was largely the big winner right before the market fell out. So I think it makes sense that it would come back sooner. Now, there is one AI agent in particular. It's a DePIN AI agent called DePIN Baby. Okay. So going to their website, there's a light paper here. Basically what they're doing is they're creating like an S&P 500 type deal for DePIN projects. And they have a comprehensive, I wish I could make this bigger. Oh, I can. Cool. They're making basically a comprehensive metric grading scale for DePIN projects. And there's 50 different categories that they're looking at. And they're basically using this aggregation to come up like a DePIN score, which I think is super interesting. Now, let's go down to the tokenomics here. Well, it's not opening. Okay. So regardless, I think what you're looking at here with virtuals, if we have a major comeback and you look at the market cap on this thing, it's a $60,000 market cap, y'all. And its Twitter account, oops, not ready for that. Twitter X account rather has 8,300 followers. They've been on the uptrend, but I think this is a way to potentially get into a really low cap virtual AI agent. Virtuals ecosystem starting to grow or come back, and the virtuals token is. I think you're going to see some of that funnel into some of these AI agents, and you have the mind share of DePIN growing. Okay, and I think we're going to see a move into that. Now, one of the other things to point out here is when the virtuals ecosystem was exploding, this thing wicked all the way up to 3.76 million market cap. So let's do some quick math. if we got back to the all-time high, okay, I'm not saying that's going to happen. That would be a 67x from where we are today. DePIN, baby, where's my DePIN? Oh, I don't know. You're gonna have to find that yourself, buddy. Let's see. So now, same thing. Like, let's say that this thing got to a $10 million market cap, and I'm not saying it will, but $10 million market cap is certainly in the realm of possibilities for these AI agents. Like, this one never really took off. It kind of launched right as things were dropping out, and the DePIN thing hasn't really exploded as much as I think a lot of us thought it would. But we see it's gaining traction. That would be a 200x if it got to a $10 million market cap. So roughly, maybe a little bit less. But I think there's a lot of upside, and sitting at a $60,000 market cap, the risk reward to me seems really good here. And that is why I grabbed a bag. I didn't put a ton of money. I grabbed a good sized bag though, just to see where this thing goes. And I think, yeah, I think I'm going to add more actually, now that I look at it more. So that is a bag I grabbed this morning, and I wanted to explain why and put it out there. All right. One other thing I'll say, I saw Ariel posted this today. See y'all in New York City. They're speaking at the Ship or Die conference, and I thought that was funny. I was like, oh man, they were pretty close to dying because they certainly weren't shipping for a while, but they are shipping now. So if you're in New York City, check that out. All right. What do we got here? I don't have a ton in the major crypto news, but we're going to jump over anyway. Let's see what we have here. Let's see. I can close that out now. Make things a little easier. Oh, we're going to talk about Coinbase. That's right. So I brought this up yesterday with the Coinbase hack. I was like, I wonder how long they knew about this, because I had been getting texts for months from Coinbase, and I was like, this is definitely a scam. My mom has a Coinbase account. She was texting me. She's like, is this real? I'm like, do not call them. Do not text them. That is definitely a scam. I personally thought it was pretty obvious. Apparently, a lot of people lost money in this. Like, I saw someone had like 10 Bitcoin that got cleared out. I'm like, sheesh. I think this is going to be a bigger deal than people realize. And I think they knew about it for a period of time. And this is going to start coming to light. To me, it's really coincidental that they were like, oh yeah, like a day after their S&P 500 listing, they're like, oh, by the way, we just found out that, these hackers have access to this stuff. I'm like, yeah, okay. I'm not buying it. And apparently, SEC did drop their lawsuit, but they're still looking into Coinbase for other things. So I don't think they're out of the woods, is what I'm saying. I don't think it's going to bring Coinbase down or anything, but I think there's more than what meets the eye. All right. Other news: Federal Reserve Bank of New York and Bank of International Settlements are testing smart contracts. Well, that seems like a pretty big deal. The banking system is going to be using blockchain technology. There's no doubt about it. Our hope just has to be that they're not doing CBDC, central bank digital currencies, because that is going to give them way too much insight into basically everything we spend money on. I think that was the goal, under the last administration. They were trying to really push CBDCs and go to a cashless society. And it makes sense for a couple of reasons. I mean, everyone always talks about, oh, like Bitcoin's so bad and all these, criminals are using it. It's like criminals are using cash. It's untraceable. Yeah, there's like some bad stuff happening, on chain with Bitcoin, but it's all in the blockchain forever. Like, every transaction is traceable forever. Cash, on the other hand, is not. And so I think they're trying to get rid of cash, mainly though for tax receipts. Let's be real. Companies that are all cash, like they don't pay their taxes. They pay some. I mean, probably minimum. But how many laundromats out there are actually laundromats, right? So I think they're trying to move everything on chain so they can start to generate more tax revenue. I get it. But it also gives them control if they have CBDCs to freeze your funds whenever they want. If they want to put in like a carbon tax, like, oh, you can only buy so much fuel this month. That sort of stuff is a little scary. So I'm all for getting back to this, getting off my rant. I'm all for using blockchain technology and smart contracts. I am not for CBDCs where the government is controlling the blockchain and the US dollar is being put on it. I'll just put it that way. Coin Daily said that Saudi Arabia is buying Bitcoin. Yeah, everyone's buying Bitcoin, guys. All the countries are buying Bitcoin. Like, of course, they're not like coming out and telling everyone because they don't want the price to go crazy. They're trying to buy it. Everyone's behind the scenes accumulating as much as they can. Of course, China is a huge holder, Bitcoin, and you have the U.S. is the number one holder. China's not far behind. Assuming the Bitcoin that the U.S. has is actually there, like, I mean, I guess it's there on chain, but there are some rumors they lost control of the keys. I haven't seen any more about that since. So, yes, everyone's buying Bitcoin. All the smart money's buying. Unfortunately, retail sold, and it's just like makes me sad. Makes me sad. But you know, people, what do they say? What does Michael Saylor say? You'll buy Bitcoin for the price that you deserve. I have to say, I agree. One last thing, Julie. She's I've been on her stream a couple times. She does a daily stream. She's feeling sick today. Give her some love in the comments. Tell her to get better. Julie's a good person. All right, let's see here. Let's get some. We got some comments in here. I'll be deep in science fair. What? I didn't know that. Oh, you know what? Yeah, I knew there was a DePIN event. I got invited out to. I'm not gonna be able to make it out there because I'm going to Vegas, and then I'm going to be in Washington for my niece's graduation, and then I'm going to be in St. Louis, and I'm going to be in Michigan. I'm traveling a lot over the next month. That'll be cool, though. You have to let us know how that is when you get back. Information. Don't got my 12. I don't know what that means. Oh, what's up, Josh? Or they lost the keys. Trump will just write Neo that compels miners to give the access back. Oh, he will. He loves those executive orders, doesn't he? He loves it. Sometimes I don't even know if he knows what he's signing. He's just like, yep, this is a great one. He's like, what is this one for? Just signs the shit. That's crazy. What are you saying? Yeah, look, it used to be for sure. Like people, I have friends that used to buy like fake IDs and were buying weed and stuff. Probably, I guess it's like through the Silk Road back in the day. And they're like, that was some really expensive weed because today, if I had that Bitcoin, it'd be worth like hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm like, yeah, man, that's rough. That's rough. But today, I don't think that's the case. Like you look at the amount of volume happening. I don't care what Elizabeth Warren says. Oh yeah, it's all illicit activity. Like no, get out of here. You're crazy. I'm not a huge fan of hers. I don't know about you guys, but anyway. All right. So, let's get into the news, the global news, and the global macro economic. I've been seeing this one move around a lot recently. They're talking about, like gold is done. Gold is done. They turned lead into gold. It's been all over the place the last like 24 hours. I was like, that's interesting. Everyone's like, you saw what happened with diamonds, right? They made synthetic diamonds and it crushed the markets. Well, I was like, let's dig into this a little bit. It's like, if you're curious about the claim, essentially they smashed the ions together and it turned into gold nuclei, but it lasts for a fraction of a second. Sorry, my neighbor is doing construction, so if you all hear that, my apologies. It said it lasts for a fraction of a second before it either decays or smashes into collider walls. It's kind of like a blink, you miss it kind of deal. And don't expect this to crash the gold market anytime soon. So it's a cool breakthrough, but it's, I think, being a little bit overblown, in other words. What else do we have here? There were the talks about the Ukraine-Russia meeting. I think it happened yesterday. Putin did not make the trip, apparently. I covered this last week that this was going to happen. And we looked at the Polymarket odds, and Polymarket was not convinced that they would be meeting. And Polymarket was right. Polymarket tends to be really right. Actually, I have some stats on that I'm going to cover in a second. But it sounds more and more like Trump is going to need to be directly involved in these negotiations before anything happens. So I'm sure Trump loves that. He'll be able to take full credit. And he is going for the Nobel Peace Prize, guys. I'm going to talk about that in a second. That's crazy. It's like the Twilight Zone out here. There are some reports that Israel and Syria are having direct negotiations. I don't know that that's actually true. I think that the UAE is basically an intermediary at this point, but it sounds like things are moving potentially in the right direction. We'll see what happens there. I bring this stuff up, guys, because I know sometimes, we're like, well, this is a DePIN channel, but like all this stuff matters. Like the global tensions impact markets. And I think it's really important to understand what's going on there. The more friction there is around the world, the more the markets don't like uncertainty. But as these things start to get worked out and sorted out, then you start to see market rallies. So that's why I bring this stuff up. Plus, it's a good idea just to be like educated and know what's going on in the world. And this is the main takeaway. I talked about this a lot, but this historic trip, frankly, surprised a lot of people, including myself. Very, very wild. I mean, there's a lot of productive meetings, frankly, a lot of investment coming to the U.S. Now, there's a lot of mixed feelings about where the money is coming from. I'll say that much. But regardless, I think overall, pretty successful trip. If you look at the approval rating, pretty remarkable move here for Trump. You see the blue line is basically a prediction of what the approval rating would be today, actually. The blue line, that would be between 45 and 78%. I mean, look at this jump. This is probably when the China deal was made, I imagine. Well, this is just a couple days ago that jumped up. Wow. Or like yesterday. So maybe it's some of the stuff going on in the Middle East that's causing this. But like, look at this now. We're up to, what does that look like there? 70% likelihood. I mean, that is a huge jump in expectations on approval rating. The other thing I brought up, this blows my mind. The Nobel Peace Prize odds, like Trump's up there as a favorite. Like what is happening right now? Another thing he said is that they expect that they'll have some set tariff rates coming. As you guys know, people are like, I thought we already did this. Well, there's a 90-day pause. I think they're looking to get some stuff solidified. So that'll be good. I think we need more certainty before Jerome Powell is going to start really lowering rates. So although Jerome Powell did mention yesterday, I covered this, that the Fed may change their target rate of 2% inflation. That would be pretty monumental if that happens. We'll wait and see there. Okay. Let's talk about what we're going to be seeing a lot more of, I think, pretty soon here. Obviously, the tariffs, the DOGE, government cuts was like the first thing that they wanted to do. And then you have the tariffs. And Scott Bessent, we trust, by the way. Scott Bessent, we trust. I wanted to play this, though, because I think we can see where things are going to be headed. Where is the narrative going to be going?
The Business Roundtable yesterday, as I tell your viewers, what we're trying to do is create economic certainty. We're going to do it with the tax plan. We're going to do it with deregulation.
Tax plan and deregulation, guys. This is where things are going. This is the next steps. There's been one guy that's been tweeting about this a lot, and I do tend to like his takes. Let's see here. This guy seems to be, he's pretty smart. He's been talking a lot about the Japan reverse carry trade, which is still an issue. I brought that up last week. But deregulation, I think, is going to be a big talking point soon. This is very much like the same page that Bill Clinton played, and really trying to promote growth in the private sector. And I think we could see, I mean, he's thinking like June, we're going to start seeing some impact from deregulation. A lot of talk about deregulation, growing the private sector, the tax bill. I think that's where we're going to see a lot of focus here pretty soon once these tariffs start getting worked out. First 24 hours for a piece 2 months later. What do you say? Probably cheaper to mine that quadrillion dollar asteroid than crash atoms together. Yeah, it's pretty funny. $2 trillion. Yeah, exactly. And actually, I when I was talking about gold the other day, I think I said like $14 trillion market cap. It's up to over 20 trillion. I looked after the stream and I was like, damn, it is up over $20 trillion. It's been a hell of a run this last year. What about Japan? Louder from Michigan. Y'all, the Japan reverse carry trade. I'm not going to take too long on this, but this is a threat. So essentially, Japan has like kept their rates are like super low for a long time. The Bank of Japan is basically created demand for their treasuries, and they've artificially kept their rates extremely low. And what people do is they go over to Japan, they take out loans over there at super low interest, and then they convert it into like US dollars and other currencies and invest. So like there's a lot of people that invest in our stock market by taking out loans over in Japan. The problem is if that starts to unwind, we saw this last August where the Japan rate started going up, Japan yen started to gain strength against the US dollar, and everyone was like forced to sell off their stocks to cover themselves over in Japan. And that's a threat. Like that could happen again. And if you look at some of Japan's like 40-year yield and stuff, that we're seeing some pretty unprecedented stuff. So that's something to keep an eye on. All right. Is that loud enough? Is that loud enough for you? All right. Let's see here. Oh, this is what I want to talk about. Poly market odds. Check this. This is freaking crazy. And I go to Poly market a lot because they have been really accurate. But when looking a month out, it's been 91% accurate a month in advance. It's been more accurate than like economists, than experts. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely crazy how accurate Poly market has been. And that brings me into the next part here, which is the chances of a U.S. recession have dropped significantly. It got up over 50%. You have like JP Morgan. You have a lot of the entities that now are walking back their claims that we are going into recession. We'll see. Obviously, these things change quickly. I mean, Trump could wake up tomorrow and be like, no, 100% tariffs on everybody again. You know, maybe he's having a bad day. You never know. You never know. I don't think it's going to happen, but I hope not. I hope not. I'm kind of sick of that shit. I don't know about everybody else. All right. And I bring up some stuff on the underlying economy because I think it's really important for us to stay grounded, particularly if we do see a surge in the market, and be really diligent about locking in profits because there is still a lot of underlying weakness. You know, like I know the markets have said different, but we have a lot of U.S. companies, large U.S. companies, going bankrupt. And we're seeing a surge like we haven't seen in some time, and nothing compared to like the 2008 crisis at this point, but they are expecting that we're going to see a surge in bankruptcies. And I'm not surprised by this. You know, with the tariff situation has not really had its full impact. You know, large companies can certainly take the brunt, especially if they have larger profit margins. And that's what we're seeing, like with inflation coming down. Everyone's like, oh, I thought it was going to be inflationary. I think what we're seeing right now is that, you know, the consumer sentiment is so low and people are not willing to pay higher prices that some of these larger companies are just, you know, taking a hit on their profit margins and taking on most of the cost of the tariffs. But for medium to small size businesses, they can't do that. You know, they don't have the profit margins or the cash flow to be able to do that. So I think we're going to see certainly an impact on small and medium-sized businesses in particular, and we're just starting to see the impact of that from these tariffs. So it's, you know, so I'm cautiously optimistic in the very short term, but you know, looking a little bit further out, medium term, I'm still a little pessimistic. Warren Buffett, a lot of these guys released their 13F. So this is looking back like a quarter. The main takeaway here is that he moved into more higher cash position. So did add to some positions, but net he actually moved more into cash. So sold out of his positions. Michael Berry. Yeah, this guy, I mean, if you remember The Big Short, right? He was the main guy there. Great call, but he's been wrong a lot. Let's be real. Like, he told people to sell right before the market went crazy in 2022. But he basically cashed out of all of his positions. Not only did he cash out his positions, but he's going short. I think like he has one like makeup company that he still holds, which is kind of weird. But everything else, he's basically out of the market right now. So I don't know. Let's say he can't be right. But again, you see more and more of this. Again, to me, it's just, especially if the market gets really bullish, just a reminder that you need to lock in profits because things can take a turn to the worse for sure. United Healthcare, God, man, this thing took a massive hit. I bring this up because I see a lot of people that are like, I'm going long now. I'd be careful. They are being basically investigated. And if they are convicted, they lose access to Medicare reimbursement for a minimum of 5 years. So I think that stock could have more downside ahead potentially. All right, let's talk about some other broader news. I bring this up because it's been in the news a bunch. I don't know if you all saw this, but Comey posted this yesterday, and apparently 86 is it can signal like offing someone. It also can mean like forcing someone out, canceling someone. But they're basically saying that he called for people to go out and off Trump is what they're saying. FBI is like taking the threat seriously, and Secret Service is basically looking into it. And it seems like it's a little targeted. I've seen a lot of posts emerge from the last few years where people are doing the same thing to Biden. So I don't know. I bring it up just because it's been in the news, and I think it's worth talking about because it's one of the main headlines right now. Other news, last couple things, and then we'll get into our lesson of the day. Justin Bieber, apparently he made $500 million to $1 billion across his career and was like basically broke and sold off his music catalog for $200 million recently. I never thought I'd say this, but I do feel for the guy. I think there was some weird stuff with Diddy. He's been through some stuff, so hopefully he makes it through okay. And then I bring up this video. I think this is pretty freaking cool. So, just a fun story. Rubik's Cube. They basically have a machine that can solve this thing. They set the world record at 0.103 seconds, faster than the blink of an eye. It is absolutely insane. The prior record was 0.3 seconds. So I'm just going to play this real quick for you. They showed it in slow motion first. Audio off there. So they played it in slow motion first, but you'll see just how quickly this thing happens. I was like, holy shit. Absolutely crazy. And then we're going to talk about the M1 and M2 money supply. And that's it. That's it. That flash. Oh, wait, hold on. Go back one more time. That. Like, what? That's crazy. All that stuff we saw in slow motion. That is pretty crazy. All right. Yeah, 86 means you're canceled, you're done. Yeah, people are making it into like this, like calling for an assassination attempt and stuff. Like, I don't know. The thing though that's weird is they asked Comey about it. He's like, oh, I didn't know. I had no idea that 86 meant anything. It's like, well, dude, obviously you knew it meant something. Like, that's just like a stupid response. Like, what are you doing? Still trying to solve the. Actually, I've got one right here. Yeah, I got one right here. I can't solve it that fast. Sheesh. Oh man. But yeah, I don't know. The Comey thing's weird. I don't understand the response where it's like, well, I didn't know it meant anything. Like, why do you post it then? Like, if he had been like, yeah, I meant to cancel him. Like, we need to, no one wants him as president, or like on the Democratic side, like that's one thing. But you just like completely say I had no idea it meant anything. It's like, that's just weird. All right, let's talk about the M2 and M1 money supply, because this is something I see mischaracterized a lot. When people are freaked out by crypto, say it's like web was in 1997. Hell yeah, for sure, for sure. I regularly post this picture in response to people. The internet, it was a fad. Do you guys remember this? You guys have probably seen this picture. Yeah. Internet may just be a passing fad as millions give up on it. Talk about a terrible take. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's where we're at right now with crypto. Like we're seeing faster crypto adoption than we saw in the early days of the internet. So I absolutely think that's where we're at. Okay. Let's get back to the M2 and M1 money supply. So one of the things I see people post a lot, they're like, look at the amount of money that's been printed. And they pull up this chart, this M1 money supply, like 80% of the money that's ever existed was printed in these years. And I'll say it was a lot, but it was not 80%. They like point to this surge up. And so the M1 money supply, by the way, is generally looked at as money that is, it used to be like checking accounts, money that could be easily, that's very liquid, that could be very easily spent. M2 then incorporated savings and checking accounts, you know, and there used to be a big difference when rates were, well, rates are a little bit higher now, but when rates were really high, I believe back in like the 70s, the difference between putting your money in a savings and a checking account was very different things. I mean, you had a much bigger yield on your savings accounts, but when we got into like the post 2008 era, you couldn't get any type of return. So people were like kind of interchangeably using their savings and checking accounts. And that's why they made this adjustment really to the M1. So back in, I have it right here. Oh, wait, here you go. I have it back here. So like more liquid savings are more liquid and now part of the M1 money supply. So what they did is they added savings accounts to that chart. And that's why you had this big surge up. So anytime you see people that post this, that's not really representative of the change. Now I will say, so I was reading this economics book. Let me pull this up. Screen, window, there you go. It's a little. So I will say, 44% of all US dollars ever created were turned out in 2020 and 2021. So that is, I mean, so I'm not saying we didn't print a ton of money. And absolutely did. A lot of it was stimulus, and then some of the the Inflation Reduction Act, and some of these spending bills. So certainly there was a lot of money printed. So I'm not saying that there wasn't, but I am saying that chart misrepresents it, and the claims that 80% of money was printed in that year are false. So just wanted to call that out because I see that misrepresented all the time. What is this? 0.08%. What does that mean? Does that mean you got a position in DePIN, baby? Is that what you're saying? I don't know what that means. But I'm going to go, when I get off here, I'm going to probably buy some more. Because I mean, to me, it's a $60,000 market cap. Yeah, I guess there is downside, but like considering where it could go and the upside potential and where it's already been, I don't know. It's a lottery ticket to me, but high upside potential, in my opinion. Anyway, y'all, that's what I got. You guys have any questions? Oh, APY from your bank. That's funny. That's pretty killer. Yeah, let me make sure to put my money there. How are you selecting certain virtuals over others? It's a good question. Sistine Research has a Discord that I am part of, and I generally have selected based off of that. The problem you found with virtuals, here's Sistine Research. The problem with virtuals is that when it started exploding, people just started launching a bunch of like fake BS. And there's Sistine Research. So I'm part of his Discord. He's had some really good calls over the last like year or so. he did not call the market dropping out. Many people did not. In fact, the only person I know of that called the top of the market is this guy, Brandon. I recommend following him. I think it's always a good idea to get, there's some people that have been calling for a recession like every day for the last 6 years. Like you don't want to necessarily, I don't necessarily like follow the doomsday people, but this guy has been really, really accurate. And he's made, I think he just said in the last 2 years, he's made close to $100 million. And he's very public about his trades. He called the top back after the Trump inauguration. And then he also flipped bullish recently and opened up some longs. So recommend following this guy. It's always good to have somebody that is not just going with the rest of Twitter, right? That he's really able to see trend reversals, and he's really good at reading charts. So that's someone I definitely follow and take. And he's been super accurate, so recommend giving him a follow. But yeah, the virtual, one of the things I look at is, in the run back in December, which ones were the most valuable, because they had massive pullbacks, sometimes 95%. And some of them did pump like a 10x like over the last month. So looking back at which ones were valued pretty highly and had the biggest corrections are not a bad way to go about it. And then the DePIN baby one, it was on my radar a while back. But I've been noticing that it's been pretty active on DePIN posts recently. And that the follower count is growing, and I would just decide, hey, I'm going to look at the white paper, or the light paper, I guess in that case, and the market cap and the pullback it's had. I just all of that combined for me, I'm like, okay, I think there's a lot of potential with this one. So, oh man, we've been going for 50 minutes. That's crazy. Time flies, doesn't it? Anyway, that's all I really have for today. I might get on this weekend, depending on what kind of news we have. I'd love to. And if not, I'll be back definitely Monday. I've got some good interviews coming up. I'm meeting with that pre-search group. Let's pull that up real quick. Let's pull up pre-search. It's a decentralized search engine. They've got like raising capital right now. The thing I really like about it is 1.34 million market cap. And his the CEO was on a space that I was on the other day, and he had some really good takes. The guy's pretty smart. He works in the Web 2 world. But I do like that it's such a low market cap. These types of things, okay, like once you get into the bull run, finding stuff under 10 million is really tough. Finding stuff like here, like when I found Osana back in November of 2023, it was like a $2 million market cap. I mean, that's when you find stuff that low, it doesn't take much in a bull run for it to pump and get you like high multiples. It does not take much at all. It's a lot harder when you're looking at stuff that's $100, $200 million market cap or in the billions to get those multiples. But these are the types of plays that, if they do hit, they can pay off pretty well. So I'm always looking for that sort of position. All right, y'all. Well, as I always say every day, get outside, get some fresh air, get some sunlight. It's good for your soul. Get moving. Let me say. They made some big switch for node operators and kind of ruined it. Huh. I don't know the history there that much. Sounds like you've been following it longer than I have. I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna bring the CEO on for an interview and ask some questions and see. But that's interesting. I'll ask him about that. All right, that's the show, y'all. I'll see you potentially tomorrow. If I do, I'll make an announcement on X. Make sure to have your notifications turned on. One thing I'm realizing on YouTube is that the lives, like, they don't do a very good job of getting those out there. And if you're a subscriber, they tell you like the next day. You really have to have notifications on to be notified when I'm going live. They don't do a very good job with promoting lives for whatever reason. So make sure to have the noties on, and then share, please. I'm also Streamer TV is going to be launching soon. I'm going to be likely hosting a segment on there, so that's pretty exciting. I'm looking forward to that. Y'all, happy Friday. Cheers.